What is up, everybody? Welcome to Viseland. Mikey, what is going on?
I am very impressed with the way that you just did that introduction, Jason Visenberg, because I have crazy anxiety. Very happy to have Viseland take that off my mind for the next little while.
Just for the record, we are recording this episode. If you're 10 years from now, you're looking at this November 3rd, 2020.
Yes.
There's kind of a lot going on in the backdrop.
Yeah.
What? The NBA draft is two
weeks away.
If there's an NBA and any of this exists, but
yeah. Okay, let's break a few things down here, people. First off, you know what's always awesome is how much everybody is like, oh, the founding fathers wanted it this way. The founding fathers wanted all this stuff. The thing I was thinking is like, what if like doctors went by that logic? It's like, oh, the founding doctors said that we should use leeches, so fuck everybody else. And like, this is what we should do from now on. Why are we making changes? What's with evolution? Like, why are we trying to evolve and get better? Why? It boggles my absolute mind. That
I feel like we're the only country that has this like kind of a stupid system where it's like,
no, we're not. That's the thing.
Oh,
Jason,
no?
I disagree. I don't think we are the only country that has this stupid system, because I think there are other countries that have like a similarly stupid system.
Oh,
but
geez.
at the same time, this system is really stupid. And like, it's gotten to the point where they say it's half of the country and half of the country, and it's clearly not.
Yeah.
So like, the greater good obviously doesn't want a lot of what is happening, and I just don't understand why that's a thing. Like, it boggles my mind. But yeah, like, it goes back to the founding fathers and the big thing with faith and all that stuff.
Yeah, and they did a lot of other things.
That's my rant.
Well, my biggest takeaway.
No, we don't know who's going to win the presidency at this point, but yeah, it's very close.
It's 9 Pacific time on November 3rd. So yeah, still a long ways away for that. My only thing is, if we did have a popular vote, there would be like 7 hours less of programming for like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, like all these channels, which would be amazing.
Let's give them less power and let's have less of that.
If we did the popular vote, it would just be like, oh, this person has more than the other. Cool. Versus like, oh, let's wait for this stupupid county you've never heard of to.
I'll be honest with you. I don't like. Everybody's like, oh, what's the mystery of that? I don't want mystery.
Yeah,
I don't care about mystery. I'd like to know right away. Like, I think we all would like to know right away. And let's, mystery is not a thing that I want with my politics. I'm good with not having it.
No, I'd like to know immediately as well. I'll tell you a good story of when I used to work at American Idol. One of the things you knew on the elimination episodes is they do the lighting cues at the lighting board, and they would have the person that gets eliminated would sing again, so you'd see that same person's name on the lighting cues twice. And I used to always go before the show and just look at the lighting board and be like, this person, cool.
Yeah, I want to arrest everybody on American Idol ever. I'm just saying that. Just putting that one out there.
A long time ago in a red blazer. It was a different time.
I want to arrest you for telling me that shit.
I've lived an interesting life of things that I can regret as far as television shows I've previously worked on. But yes, as mentioned earlier, we're about 2-ish weeks from the NBA draft. The thing that we've...
Yeah. And I could go on rants about the NBA draft too. We'll go on some measurement rants at the end of this.
Well, I feel like the 2020 draft adds to 2020.
A what?
I feel the 2020 NBA draft adds to 2020 because it's a pretty mediocre draft. It just keeps going on forever. But
yeah, I get it. But yeah, it's just basically, yeah, there have been some combine measurements that I kind of came across, and seems like some of them are not very, I don't know, it's hard to consider them like legit measurements, and it seems like everybody's setting a record and all this stuff. It seems like there's like a Pat Connaughton situation where somebody botched their standing reach, so they now are like the best leaper in history. But yeah, we'll get into that. We just wanted to do we've actually never done a first round mock draft where it was what we believe is going to happen. So that's what we're basing this on. We did a lottery mock of what we believed was going to happen. There'll be definitely a few changes in this one. I think that the most important thing to come at with this is, rather than like go crazy into team fit and like, you know, how this is going to happen, is give like pretty much a range, because I think there are going to be so many trades. I'm not going to predict trades. I'll say like they could possibly trade this pick, but I'm not going to be like Golden State is trading with Atlanta and like, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah, there's some like candidates for trading, but yeah, there's nothing that we know that we can like base anything off of and say.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll go over like the latest rumors and all that stuff. But that's the thing that I want to address, is that there are lots of draft rumors and there are lots of things that people are saying right now that, like, let's face the facts, they're probably not true. There are a lot of teams posturing. There are a lot of teams trying to garner some maybe extra things in a trade. I think Golden State has been absolutely ridiculous this draft with that whole thing, and I don't really believe anything that's coming out of there. But yeah, like it's just it's a lot. And then I think the current thing I'll say is that it seems like there are three guys who are kind of like hanging at the top of the draft, and that seems to, it may not be our tier, but it seems to be like kind of like a tier. And I think the top five is like, it seems to be, it may not be completely set, and there's still a possibility I could be wrong on this, but I think the top five is pretty set. It's just, it'll depend on the order. But yeah, let's just kick this off.
Okay.
And I'll do something here that I hadn't really done when it comes to something that I believe is going to happen. I'm going to say that right now, I'm leaning towards Minnesota possibly drafting LaMelo Ball. And I had been kind of thinking that they would lean towards Anthony Edwards. I heard recently, somebody told me that Anthony Edwards was working out in a Minnesota shirt. It could still happen. But you know what? I think LaMelo Ball is a definite possibility if they keep the pick. I think LaMelo Ball is a possibility if they trade the pick. I think that LaMelo Ball is just somebody who has really rare basketball IQ and passing ability, is a great ball handler as well. So that was like something that he kind of had over Lonzo, who he obviously gets compared to. But yeah, I think just in terms of like basketball IQ and like things that you can't really teach, along with the size, along with the ability to rebound and do some of the other things. And then he may not, like, he was a bad defender in Australia, but he has potential there and he has instincts on that side of the ball as well. And, you know, I think the obvious thing was that he was never really asked to play defense. So this is a thing where I think it's a possibility that Minnesota takes LaMelo Ball number one. Yes, I think if either way you go, if you take Anthony Edwards, if you take LaMelo Ball, it's going to be a tough fit next to D'Angelo Russell. But I think that there's a possibility that LaMelo Ball and D'Angelo Russell, at least they'll score lots of buckets.
I mean,
that's one thing.
I mean, D'Lo played with Lonzo too, though, didn't they? On the Lakers?
No, they got traded for each other.
They traded for, okay.
Yeah, that was the thing that, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of had to move one, I guess. Yeah, like, I mean, I
or
think
not traded for each other, but they immediately traded him.
Yeah, they had to make that move. But yeah, no, I think LaMelo with the first pick, super intriguing, and it's just,
yeah,
we haven't seen him at the best levels of competition in quite some time, but big for position, you know, bigger point guard now, you know, can handle. Yeah,
taller,
not like bigger buffer, but like, yeah, taller point guard. I mean, it could be intriguing with D'Angelo Russell, like getting those two guys out, letting them kind of run.
Yeah. And then like playing D'Lo more off the ball, having like two great pick and roll threats with a guy like a pick and pop guy like Karl Anthony Towns. They have other things to address. The Malik Beasley situation obviously is something that they need to figure out also if they're going to have him being a large part of the team. But then the other thing is they drafted Jarrett Culver, and he did not have the best rookie season. but I think there's still a good possibility that he, plays into their future. And certainly I think a large part of drafting Jarrett Culver was the work ethic and him being able to work on some of the things that he kind of struggled with this past year. But I just think if you're drafting a talent and you just, want somebody that you can put the ball in their hands, has this like great deal of potential due to his basketball skills, I see LaMelo Ball as a real possibility here.
No, totally. And I don't think anyone's locked in this position. It's not like in the NFL draft where they sign the guy before the draft. It's like, it could be him. It could be, there's a couple other potential players that can kind of creep into that number one spot, possibly, depending on what teams covet.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the second pick, and that's Golden State Warriors.
Super interesting, like Golden State has one bad year, ends up in this great draft position.
Yeah, but it's a tough one too. Like you don't really,
with everybody
you kind of have no idea who you're going to pick, how they fit with your team, all that stuff. Like, you think Anthony Edwards obviously has a great deal of upside, and he's somebody that I could see Golden State taking as well. The word was that Deni Avdija came in and had a tremendous workout with them, and they were kind of blown away by him. I think that's a smokescreen, and if they were to take Deni, I'm guessing it would kind of be like a trade down, like that kind of thing. I just don't think that if you go by the tier system of, like drafting a guy over like a need or anything like that, like I just don't think Anthony Edwards and possibly even James Wiseman are on most teams' same tier as Deni Avdija. So Deni is like this possibly great complementary player, but I just still think that Golden State, my guess right now, and kind of like reading the tea leaves and everything like that, if they keep the pick and possibly even for a trade, I think James Wiseman might be the pick. And that's so in this mock draft 2.0, wherever we call it, the Viseland new mock draft, I'm going to take James Wiseman second to the Golden State Warriors. And here's the reason why. I think that they have been talking more and more about just having like this center that can, provide rim protection, be a rebounder, kind of be this guy that plays without the ball and, more gets like garbage buckets, rim runs, provides that size that they really had been missing. And I think that they possibly see like an upside there with James Wiseman. I know that this may not be a popular pick among many people in the draft community. And I still am skeptical about James Wiseman myself, but I think that the bottom line is he has tremendous physical talent. He is excellent in running the floor. Are his defensive instincts great? No. Does he struggle in the pick and roll? Is he going to have to play drop coverage? Is he a guy that can switch out? Doesn't look like it. But I think he can at least provide rim protection. I have a feeling he's going to be like a really good rebounder at the next level. And I even think there's like shooting potential. Like I don't think his offensive ability is something to completely write off. He'll be a lob threat. He's going to get points near the basket.
7'6" wingspan,
Yeah, oh for sure. Well, yeah, like you look at the guy and he looks like a basketball player.
And he has
something like tremendously physically impressive. It's just about like his basketball IQ and things along those lines. He's not a very good passer. He's kind of slow to react. He a lot of the times instead of passing out or noticing a mismatch, will take a ridiculous fadeaway jump shot. That's something that you notice with him from very early on. But he, I think at the same time, like just has so much physical and athletic talent that you're willing to bet on him and just bet. Like, I'm not sure James Wiseman lives up to a top 5 status, which is what I still believe where I still believe he likely goes. But I would be very hard pressed in a draft where you have like this many like open variables if he's not like a top 10 player in this draft. Like it would be surprising to me.
And he's like the highest rated like true center as well.
Yeah. I guess there's definitely some. We'll mention that when the next center comes along, but yeah, there's some debate. I on my board, I personally have somebody ahead of James Wiseman as a true center. I feel this person's a true center. Some people don't call him a true center, but I feel that he is. But yeah, right now, and this could definitely change, but I'm going with James Wiseman too. I still think there's a really good chance Golden State trades this pick, and I'm not completely sure that the person trading up for this pick would want James Wiseman, but if Golden State keeps the pick, I think there's certainly a chance they take James Wiseman. Moving on to number 3, the rumor is that Charlotte is very high on Onyeka Okongwu, and center has been a spot where, if people like, let's say, Anthony Edwards goes 1 or LaMelo Ball goes 1, Anthony Edwards goes 2. The rumor had been that James Wiseman would go 3 to Charlotte. Charlotte is kind of looking for that big man that they have never really had. I guess since Al Jefferson when they weren't winning games. But the rumor is that Onyeka Okongwu is somebody that they're very high on, and I personally think that Onyeka Okongwu has a chance to be a better long-term prospect than James Wiseman. I think that, it would have been really interesting if James Wiseman had played the whole year, because he did look really good in those 3 games that he played, albeit still showing some of the things that made you kind of skeptical about his long-term. But Onyeka Okongwu was very good on both ends of the floor this year. Just a crazy quick leaper. Does have some possibility to guard the pick and roll and to switch. And, really good rim protector, great finisher around the hoop. The passing isn't something that you bank on, and that's why a lot of people think the Bam Adebayo comparisons are pretty crazy, because of Bam's ability to run the offense through him. But he at least has some acumen there. I wouldn't say like an amazing chance of being like this great shooter, but he shot well from the free throw line, certainly has a chance. I think there's some offensive upside, has great hands too. There certainly seems like if Charlotte is going by positional need, that they might go with Onyeka, but I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards here for the Charlotte Hornets. I just think Anthony Edwards probably has the most individual offensive upside in the draft. He looks
athletic potential,
obviously very athletic, very strong, not the greatest handler. His decision making leaves a little to be desired.
And he didn't go from 3 either. But again, you look at someone who was at his workout for Clutch Sports, Dwayne Wade. I mean, Dwayne Wade was not a great 3-point shooter either. But I think athleticism first step.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think there's as much as people kind of compare the two because of the Tom Crean thing and similarities in body, I still think there are a lot of differences in terms of being a player. But he does have a lot of really good off-ball potential. Charlotte needs somebody to kind of be that guy and, to be that offensive force. And I think that Anthony Edwards certainly has a chance to do that. And if he were available at 3, I think they would probably leap at it.
Well, for a while, he was considered the number 1 with LaMelo,
And he still may be.
Still could be, but with LaMelo number 2, so it's good value as well for Charlotte if you're going there. Yeah. They're probably another future lottery team again, because I think Anthony Edwards tons of potential, but I think his 2 kind of negative. Well, 3-point shooting, but also free throw shooting and turnovers were kind of his problems.
Yeah, and also I think there was a lot of defensive passivity, or defensive, just not really carrying on the defensive end. A lot of times where he would just kind of go on stretches of passivity on both ends of the floor, and you just kind of wonder how that process is really going to work out. But then, he has the moments against Michigan State, and then some other moments where he just goes on these offensive flurries and shows that ability to get over screens on defense and to make his I think I know that there've never been like really official numbers with him, but I'm guessing his wingspan is in like the 6'11", 7-foot range at this point. And yeah, he's long, he's strong, he's very athletic. Certainly has like shooting potential, and while like the percentages may not have been there, I think they could be later on. The Donovan Mitchell comparisons are kind of where you maybe look at Anthony Edwards and say that could be a possibility for him. But yeah,
that's good. If that's what you're getting in the draft, like that's great value for
in this draft. It's absolutely great.
That's a super good value for the franchise. But moving on, we got number 4. We got Chicago Bulls coming in.
Yeah, and the guy that I have going for the Bulls, and this would be a possibility of a trade. I don't think the Bulls would want James Wiseman in this case, so I would probably have to make a different pick there. But I'm just going to go with the Bulls keeping the pick here and give a general range. Deni Avdija. And I think that Deni is just kind of one of those guys. He is somebody that I think like draft Twitter in general, and maybe even like some certain NBA teams in general have kind of lowered on a bit. You just kind of wonder about the upside. It doesn't seem like he's going to be like this kind of, like secondary creator or anything like that. But he's a great passer. The shooting is still kind of a concern, and when the PSL
are there,
what?
Some of the mechanics are there for sure. His production hasn't been.
It's tough to say that the mechanics are there. Yeah, there are certainly times where the mechanics are not there, and like the feet and everything are kind of a mess. When the BSL and basketball kind of started back up, he went on like the streak of kind of like a nice shooting streak, and then he kind of went back into the territory of missing tons of shots. He's never been a great free throw shooter. That's kind of a concern. But yeah, really good passer, has good instincts on both ends. He's not incredibly athletic. So that's kind of.
I think it's like wingspan as well as like pretty.
His wingspan is like dead even.
Yeah, impressive. And then also just adding that bulk and that weight to kind of like be in the NBA as well. I know that's something that people want to kind of like reshape his body a little bit to get stronger.
Yeah, I think he's strong, but yeah, certainly like it's going to be a thing of him having to get used to like NBA physicality, especially if he's playing the 4, which it seems like that may be a position he plays quite a bit to best utilize him. But yeah, I think that a lot of talent there. Obviously, playing big minutes for a EuroLeague team. Now, his EuroLeague production is something that people kind of harp on as well, and it's not necessarily something out of this world. I think it's where the like Luka Doncic comparisons are like absolutely nuts because their production was really like not very close. But yeah, he played really well for Maccabi Tel Aviv at times, and certainly like I think like a low end for Deni, you're still getting a role player. It's just something you kind of wonder, is that something you want at like a top 5? Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think like Golden State taking him at 2 seems a little much to me. But yeah, like it certainly seems like there. I know the early rumors in the year were that Cleveland was very interested. Yeah, I have a feeling Deni's not going to fall very far, and I could see him going as high as number 4 to the Chicago Bulls, and possibly like if the Bulls and the Warriors kind of make a deal there, then I could see like an Anthony Edwards for Deni Avdija thing going on. So yeah, and then we'll move on to number 5. And so I switched like the top 3 a little bit, but I kept 4 and 5 the same. I have Obi Toppin going to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Or NCAA player of the year.
He is the NCAA player of the year. He also played at Dayton, which is in the state of Ohio, which by the way, Ohio, fuck you. But yeah, it's just God. Yeah, he's somebody who I think is going to have to be really, really good on offense to merit, being this high in the draft. I know he'll be like the odds-on favorite for Rookie of the Year. He's obviously quite a bit older than anybody who's been drafted up to this point. He was a redshirt sophomore, but he's pretty much the age of a senior. Not even pretty much, he's the age of a senior. But he is a very talented vertical athlete. And there's a chance he could be special on offense. He's a great shooter. He was great finishing around the basket, really good passer out of off of the short roll. And the big thing with him is he's not incredibly long. Defense is a big thing with OB.
Yeah, I'd say, like it's foot quickness, defense, negative.
Yeah, lateral quickness. Yeah,
that kind of thing. And then, but offensively, he's hopefully good.
Yeah, he could be special. Like he could be really, really good on offense.
Yeah,
it's just you're wondering if it may like his. I know some people see him as, since he's this great vertical athlete, like they're like, oh, he has this ability to possibly play center. But I think his lack of length may prevent him from doing that. Not to mention that like upper body strength seems to be kind of an issue. He has these really high hips and kind of gets pushed off at times. So yeah, like there are some legitimate concerns about Obi Toppin. Don't think that I would take him at 5, and I kind of like a guy like Onyeka Okongwu a little more. But I think there's a good chance that he goes at 5, and I think people are just buying that high offensive upside. Like he's really, if you're talking about a known commodity as an offensive player at this point, like nobody was more efficient than him last year. And he also, showed the shooting potential. Like there's a lot to like there.
No, and Kevin Love's probably parting ways pretty soon.
Oh yeah.
They need a primary offensive player for now.
Yeah, well, I think it's also like I'm not sure about the primary offensive player, but I just think they need talent, and I think that Obi could be that guy they see is giving that immediate impact, and maybe just being like the fill-in for Kevin Love to an extent. You're correct there.
Well, because they're gonna have to get rid of him. Tristan Thompson's not getting any younger. Not that he's a star, but he's like coming to that front court. Play the 4. I think that's gonna be definitely like where Cleveland's gonna have that need, especially because I think Kevin Love and Cleveland. I think that relationship is pretty much very soon to be being over.
Yeah. All right. Now on to Atlanta, number 6. I have them taking Killian Hayes. And this is another one where like I'm really not sure they keep the pick. I think there's a possible trade here with Atlanta, like since they have obviously Trae Young and they have this stable of wing players, and you could see them taking another wing player. You think I know they just traded for Clint Capella, but Onyeka Okongwu would be a possibility here also. I'm thinking that Killian Hayes, they may just want like another guy who, where you can play him on the ball. So having like,
him on the ball, so
Trae Young,
yeah,
and having Trae like maybe play a little bit more off ball. Now Killian Hayes is, I think, an absolute talent. To me, he's like a possible top 3 pick, and I think people are kind of just sleeping on that. I think he has the ability to get his own shot. He's made tremendous strides this year on both ends of the floor. He's a really good passer. Yes, very left-hand dominant, but I just think there's some definite talent there. And then like with his ability to score is almost like similar in ways to like a guy where like Luka Doncic gets kind of like advantages and just being able to use his body, change of speed. And I just think that there's a chance that Killian may be like one of the better players in this draft. And I think that there's also a chance he goes much lower than he should. But yeah, in this scenario, I'm thinking Atlanta. I know some people see like Tyrese Haliburton as like the linking piece, but I think Atlanta, like there's a chance that they might be really interested in this, in Trae Young and Killian Hayes playing together and having like these two guys that you can just count on to bring the ball up the floor and run the show. Now, Killian has kind of struggled shooting it off of the catch. I think people are a little bit more confident in his ability as a pull-up shooter as opposed to, catch and shoot.
I think his rep is a little bit more pick and roll than
Yeah, for sure. And that would be a huge part of things with Atlanta. And I think that's kind of like a team that they're building too. And, Trey's ability to excel in the pick and roll as well. But yeah, I just think if you're going off of talent and going off of something where you're stacking all of these assets and just kind of seeing what works, Killian Hayes might be he might even be a steal here at number 6. So I'm growing more and more interested in this possible pairing with Trae Young and Killian Hayes.
Yeah, no, 6'4", point guard. It's like he's,
I think he's 6'5", man. I think he's 6'5". He's really strong. He has about a 6'9" wingspan. He's a legit.
So it's not like if you put him with Trae, it's like you're having an exceptionally small backcourt. It's still okay.
And then you also have a better defender next to Trae. Killian this year was really good at kind of at least showed a lot of promise at point of attack and off the ball, and he just seems to have the strength to come in and play NBA basketball.
Yeah, no, totally. I think playmaking gets him on the court immediately. I mean, he was getting 6 assists last year in France. He knows. He
was playing in Germany.
Oh, Germany, yeah.
Yeah.
From France.
Yeah, sure. He was playing for in Germany, but he played in France the year before.
He played in the Cholet before. Okay,
yeah. And let's move on to Detroit. I have Detroit, and I haven't really heard this one mentioned as much. And I know that, Detroit, a lot of people are saying, you should really focus on signing Christian Wood, and they should. Christian Wood's per minute number is really impressive, and obviously was one of the bright spots for the Pistons last year. I'm thinking Onyeka Okongwu might be a possibility here. So I have Onyeka going 7 to Detroit. And I just think that, if you play Onyeka and Blake Griffin, you have these two really great vertical athletes playing next to each other. Blake obviously is kind of, gotten to the point where he more spreads the floor. And then you see some really good production possibilities for Onyeka on both ends of the floor. So yeah, like I was saying before, really great vertical athlete, just kind of explodes off the floor, was great around the basket. You can see him being really good in pick and roll, really good off cut. He is, I think, somebody that's going to manage to score points and get production. And then defensively, he has some great instincts on that end of the floor.
He's got the rim protector DNA, and then still just a lot of untapped potential that we saw at SC.
Now, he's not exactly the biggest guy for a center, and you just kind of wonder if that could come into play eventually. But I just think that he is strong enough, and then his vertical athleticism and also just movement in general gives him an edge there, where I think he's going to be able to play at center, and that's going to be his primary position in the NBA.
Yeah, and I think pairing him with Blake would be pretty awesome.
Now, granted that they may also move Blake Griffin as well, but
I think a lot of these teams are in the lottery for a reason.
Yeah.
A lot of
and then also if you're even looking forward, Detroit likely not turning it around in 1 year, and then they have a chance to add one of the many talented guards in next year's draft. Then for the 8th pick, this is not a pick that I would necessarily do, and I think there are some really good wings left on the board.
But it's the Knicks. They go against conventional thinking.
Exactly. And I think that the Knicks, if he is available here, I have a feeling they might go with Tyrese Haliburton. Tyrese Haliburton is a mainstream favorite, and apparently somebody that the NBA is very high on. I think there are some good reasons for that. He was a really good spot-up shooter his 2 years at Iowa State. Tall for a point guard, The 7-foot wingspan is a complete lie, and he's probably like 6'8" at most, 6'9" possibly. But yeah, he's still
at 6'5" point guard. He's still bringing something, to the table there.
he does. But the biggest thing with him is there's like this lack of physicality that is concerning, and he like rarely ever gets to the free throw line. He finished well around the basket on so few attempts. He doesn't really get there. He's not necessarily breaking you down off of the dribble. He's a really, really good passer and a good spot up shooter, but struggles to get in the paint and to break anybody down off the bounce. And then what was the God, I wanted to do a really good tie-in there. But yeah, so struggles there. And then struggles as a pull-up shooter. And then just defensively, he does have good instincts on that end of the floor, but like I think struggles at point of attack as well due to his lack of strength.
Yeah,
so
I think the frame is going to be, it's like tough when he gets posted up by some of like the stronger.
Yeah. And like the Knicks, the big thing with the Knicks is they have like 3 point guards and none of them seem to be like their future point guard. And if you're drafting Tyrese Haliburton, the odds are that you don't see him as like this linking guy. You're kind of seeing him as a point guard. And it's just, there's no guarantee that that's him. So yes, I think he's a good linking piece. He's probably a good complementary player and definitely provides like at least some court spacing that might be good for the Knicks, but he's not going to be like your primary initiator. And, you're not getting him like, breaking down, making his own offense. At times, like I found him to be very passive as far as that was concerned. So yeah, I would be a little concerned about drafting Tyrese Haliburton here if I were the Knicks as my future point guard. However, I will say that I'm thinking more and more the Knicks just package 8 and 27 and move up, or maybe move down and try and get their point guard there. So yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks move this pick or do something with that. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks end up thinking that Tyrese Haliburton is a good idea and just, kind of trying to roll with it and hoping that they can just get the best out of him.
It's the Knicks. You never know.
Yeah.
But coming up next, we got Washington Wizards.
Yeah. And well, what were you saying?
9th pick, Washington Wizards.
Okay. Yeah. The guy I have Washington taking with the 9th pick is Isaac Okoro. Yes, I know Devin Vassell has kind of been a popular one here, and there may be some other possibilities. I know that the rumor is that Washington apparently really wants Onyeka Okongwu to fall here, but I think Isaac Okoro will kind of be an interesting one. I just think that they obviously I think the wing is a need. You have these 2 huge offensive forces in John Wall and Bradley Beal. I'm not writing off Isaac Okoro as an offensive player. His shooting is obviously a concern.
No, that's a big flag.
Yeah, but he's a great cutter and a really good passer also. And then the flashes he's shown being able to dribble, the flashes he's shown as a slasher, his ability to finish around the rim, like just really. And then he also he seems to be able to like defend up too. So I think you're getting like a really good player out of this at the very least. And at the 9th pick, with his potential like as a wing, like I'm starting to kind of favor like the Isaac Okoro over like a Devin Vassell. And I know I may be kind of like alone on this, or not alone, but like in the minority at the very least. But yeah, I think that there's a chance that like Isaac Okoro doesn't fall like as much as people kind of tend to believe he might due to the questions about his shooting. I also think there's like potential there too, but yeah, like the shooting's a concern. But I just think all the other factors he brings, like his on-ball defense, and then his ability as a passer, as possibly even like a secondary playmaker, and then just like all the other things that he brings, like as a cutter and slasher, like an ability to play without the ball. So,
yeah, I think those are things that would work well with like John Wall, Bradley Beal.
Yeah,
having someone else that can kind of
and like a team that like I know that some people see Rui Hachimura as like their 3 of the future. I think he's more of a 4, and yeah, like I think that there's a good chance that you have like the athleticism of like an Okoro and Hachimura playing with a Wall Nabil. I guess you figured the center position out and see what happens there. But yeah, I think it could be pretty interesting.
And then if Washington moves away from this pick, they can just stick at the wing with a show favorite Troy Brown.
True enough.
Wishful thinking. Much love to Troy.
Yes. Yeah, Troy showed some flashes last year, but yeah.
So, I think he'll still.
It seems like more of like a role complementary piece.
Yeah, role complementary guy, and then maybe in free agency, he gets a starting gig somewhere.
Possibly. I at the 10th pick have the Phoenix Suns taking Kira Lewis Jr. I think they, as much as people have the Suns going in all these different directions, I think that Kira Lewis might just be like a really interesting option for them. They have Ricky Rubio, obviously, but you don't know how long that's going to necessarily be around. Devin Booker getting like a ton of run as the primary ball handler also. But I just think Kira's a really interesting change of pace guy, and just, has some speed and athleticism that might be really interesting for Phoenix, and ability to break down defenses, like showing some passing acumen, also shooting potential. I think that he's a guy that will be very interesting playing next to Devin Booker, and I believe he's somebody that's moving up draft boards and becoming a more enticing possibility. Just one of the fastest players end to end in this draft. Obviously, the big thing with him is he went to college early, wasn't even eligible for the draft as a freshman. Showed improvement this past year at Alabama. Shown some flashes as a shooter, some ability to break down, get into the paint, get to the free throw line. So yeah, I think that there's like some real buzz of Kira Lewis Jr. being a possible top 10 pick.
Yeah, and you got to look at like Rubio does. How much does he have left in the tank? So you're going to need a point guard in a few years anyway to run with Devin Booker.
Yeah, and the rest of the Phoenix Suns, who are not just Devin Booker. You of course have DeAndre Ayton. You have Mikal Bridges. You had Cam Johnson. Kelly Oubre is still there. What were you saying?
Yeah, no. I said Cam Johnson came on as a shooter. Like he's really got that skill. Yeah. Good for him.
That is a thing that he does. That's why they drafted Cam Johnson. I know some people say like Aaron Nesmith's a possibility. Like I just don't think they'll take like tons of the same player. But yeah, I'm seeing the Kira Lewis Jr. possibility, and I'm thinking that may be a place where the Suns go. Moving on to the 11th pick. I know you guys are kind of surprised that he's fallen all this way, and he's going to fall one pick further. But I have the San Antonio Spurs drafting Devin Vassell's college teammate, Patrick Williams. I think that Patrick Williams Jr. there's definite buzz of him possibly going in the top 10. He is somebody who's very intriguing. I know some people see him maybe even being a wing. I see him more as a 4. Was a really good athlete, good weak side rim protector, and has some athleticism. Even showed some ability out of the pick and roll, like in small flashes. Now he's pretty raw, and he doesn't do anything like kind of out of this world, but he has at least the athleticism, some acumen, some ability to play on both ends of the floor that I think San Antonio could maybe see some inroads there to develop. And he's also one of the youngest college players in the draft. And I think he might be the youngest college player in the draft. So yeah, he young guy, didn't necessarily get tons of experience, but showed really nice flashes, and even has potential as a shooter, shot really well from the free throw line. So yeah, I think his stock seems to be moving up, and I wouldn't be surprised if he even went higher than this.
Yeah, it's been him over Vassell. It's kind of been the thing like recently. It's kind of had that swap because he just has he has a little bit more potential, athletically that you kind of want to get around.
I'd say so. And then at 12, I finally have Devin Vassell. I could be way off here. I know that Devin Vassell is a draft Twitter favorite, and people have been moving him way up the board. I'm starting to get a few second thoughts into just how high the potential is. I think that he is a tremendous team defender, but I kind of worry a bit about the body. He's a really good shooter too. So like people see,
but it was a pretty small sample size from three. Like he wasn't a.
But no, like I think doing like quite a bit of work this past year at least. So yeah, and then I think both of the years he shot really well from three. Like the first year was kind of a small sample size, and then this year he was a lot better. Not to mention he became a lot better off of the pull-up.
Yeah, he was taking 3.5 threes a game at 41%.
Yeah.
It's like pretty.
Yeah. And then, but like also similar to what he did the year before on like a small sample size, right?
Well, yeah, he was 41 again, like 41.9.
So but he's consistent.
Like
if you add those up, yeah. If you add up his college sample size, like that's pretty good.
Overall, just under 3 a game, is what it ends up to. But again, coming into that like athletic, explosive leaper, pretty decent wingspan, right? He's like 7-foot-ish wingspan.
I think about 6'10". But yeah, he the thing with him is you wonder how much he's going to develop off the dribble, how much he's going to make plays for others. And he's another guy who like just doesn't get to the basket a lot. And he shot pretty well from the free throw line, right? Like, do you have the numbers pulled up?
Let me just pull that up on him. I just put that away. Free throw line. Yeah, 74, just under 74%.
Yeah, not amazing. But yeah, I think that people are kind of seeing this possibility of him, being like more than like just this complimentary player and everything like that, and that could be the case. Maybe I'm just looking too low at it. You have like people making like possible like Paul George comparisons and stuff like that. I don't see that type of athleticism. I don't see that type of strength. So yeah, I'm a little apprehensive on just how high to have Devin Vassell. I would still think he's a top 10 guy for me, but I'm not like at the position where I'm like thinking that he's like a top 5 guy, and just I'm not like all in on him as much as some of the other draft Twitter people seem to be.
What's your cap on him? Like starting with kind of that 10 to like the end of the lottery.
Oh, I think he could go as high as 6. But yeah, I think this would be like the lowest position he likely goes. Yeah. So I'd say 6 to 12. But that's like a draft range a lot of the time. Like there's a pretty wide draft range with a number of players.
Well, yeah, it just depends who the picking team is loving.
True enough. And let's move on to New Orleans Pelicans. I have them finally taking Aaron Nesmith. I know that Aaron Nesmith is like a draft favorite by the mainstream. He did not have very many games this year against great competition, but he did have, when you're talking about like the low sample size with Devin Vassell, he had a huge sample size.
Yeah, he shot out of this 52%
world. Yeah.
52% on 8 attempts a game.
Yeah. The thing is, how sustainable is that? Like, if you look at his freshman season, and like this is like something where like I don't think anybody has ever done that like over their like college career, like shot that huge of a sample size and had that kind of percentage. You just kind of wonder how sustainable that is, and like if he's really that kind of shooter. Not to mention like the shooting versatility. So like he was great off of movement. He was really good off the catch, but his pull-up shooting is a totally different bag. and it's just not something that you see a ton of. So he's going to be like this off-ball guy. And then when you think of like the 3-and-D, like is he more of like a shooting specialist or a 3-and-D guy? And I think you're leaning towards shooting specialist. You're not really sure about his defense. You're not really sure about his ability to guard the perimeter.
Well, also just like playing it like vision turnovers were kind of a.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like he doesn't really pass. Yeah, like
yeah. So
yeah.
it's just
he's really one-dimensional.
Yeah, it's gonna be a spot. Yeah, you want him to be a spot shooter when defense comes in on Zion. Like
yeah, and well, wherever he goes, like that's going to be something that's expected of him. And yeah, like I see New Orleans looking for guys that can shoot around Zion Williamson. It certainly seems like this is a possibility. It certainly seems like he could go high, but I have a feeling like I know as much as people have loved Aaron Nesmith and harped about his early season college sample, I think there's a chance he goes a little bit lower than people had expected and falls out of the lottery. But yeah, I this particular lottery mock, I have him going 13 to New Orleans. 14, I'm going to stick with a pick that we made in our Viseland lottery mock. I'm going to stick with Tyrese Maxey. I'm just thinking it makes sense with the Celtics. I think he's a combo guard. You probably want him more off ball, if anything. But I just think there's a lot of talent there. There's the tremendous body control, the ability to finish around the basket. I know that he struggled shooting during his pro day. I still think there's potential there, but he's likely not an out-of-this-world shooter. But, yeah, he's a guy that's going to play hard on both ends of the floor, and then has some ability to play without the ball. And then when he's on the ball, he has always been really good at limiting mistakes. He's not like this out-of-this-world playmaker or anything like that, but he's a good passer who doesn't turn the ball over a ton. So, yeah, I think Tyrese Maxey might be a guy that Boston kind of zones in on, possibly number 14.
Yeah, I think he presents something like he's crafty.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Kind of his thing. It's just like, again, consistency three-point shooting, but like hopefully, especially Boston, a team that has a lot. I mean, hopefully that presents a good environment for him to come in and not have to do like every night, but just hopefully, starting off probably off the bench, just providing some spark.
Yeah. I think that's a good possibility for him. And, just given a few extra buckets that they might have been missing off of the bench.
I believe the first Kentucky guy off the board.
He is.
Which seems like super low for Cal. Like, this is like an off year for him.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, just barely creeping in the lottery.
He missed out on a few top guys and then some. Yeah, I just feel like Kentucky, as a whole, there wasn't a ton of expectation to have. Like, Tyrese Maxey was seen as their top NBA prospect and kind of stayed that way. Khalil Whitney was somebody that had some buzz early in the year, but just fell off once people kind of realized what he was bringing to the table. And yeah, there wasn't a ton of NBA intrigue. They'll probably have a few other players get drafted, Emmanuel Quickly, Nick Richards, maybe Ashton Hagans, but yeah, this I think the Kentucky next year will have a few more guys drafted early, but yeah, this year they may end up not gaining the lottery at all. But I have Tyrese Maxey being the last pick in the lottery. Number 15, I have Orlando taking RJ Hampton. I think RJ Hampton is somebody who has a possibility to go in the lottery. I even think he might be somebody that Boston looks at. He's another guy who I feel is more of like a combo than a pure one, but he has some fantastic burst. He's always been really, really quick, has some ball skills, has improved as a decision maker, shooting still very much a mixed bag, but has potential there also. Yeah, I just think there's enough athleticism to intrigue, some possible upside with his defense, albeit he struggled on that end with his brief time in New Zealand. But he is somebody that I think is kind of gaining steam throughout the whole draft process. and showed some really positive flashes in the NBL.
Yeah, he's one of the guys that took him up on their pro development contract.
Next stars, yes, sir.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, again, ball handling, pick and roll, but yeah, shot selection, finishing are definitely,
And
especially
the ability to get to the basket, like that's a big thing with him.
And yeah, it's just it'd be interesting to see like if he did benefit from that versus if he had gone to college.
Yeah, I'm guessing if he'd gone to college, like I'm thinking he's still in this relative range, and I think for a while people had him like slipping quite a bit, and I just have a feeling he's like now in like the late lottery to like mid first round range.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's still a good value.
Yeah. At 16, this is not a pick that I necessarily am fully behind, but it's a pick I'm kind of thinking the Blazers. I'm like more and more thinking the Blazers might just end up doing this pick, and it's.
I take Blazer picks very, very, very personally as well.
Yeah, it's Villanova's Saddiq Bey, and he did have a really good sophomore year at Villanova. He shot really well. Even showed some passing acumen. He's a decent defender, albeit like not necessarily the most instinctive defender, but he has size. He's just also like kind of a little bit of a throwback in the way that he gets his baskets. He's maybe like athletically more kind of a 4 than a 3. But the Blazers need help at forward, so I guess
I think they need. Yeah, I think they need anyone in that 3-4 range. It doesn't really matter as long as you're not a small guard, because I think they got that on lock.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think
he's also like, I don't love his size as a wing or as a 4. Like I think it's fine, but it's nothing like out of this world. Yeah, it wouldn't be a pick that I would be all in on, but it's something that I think the Blazers might look at, and I just have a feeling like this is likely his range. So I have. I think
like he's gonna, he'll start his career as like an energy guy off the bench. So I think.
Well, you certainly hope like the shooting is the big thing with him, like where it's he shot so damn well that it's like completely unsustainable at the NBA. But if he proves like. I think that's been a huge issue with like some of the Blazers forwards in general, is the inconsistency with shooting. That was even an interest or something that was an issue with Al-Farouq Aminu and Maurice Harkless.
That's
yeah, a little less of one with Carmelo, and then you have like Trevor Ariza. But yeah, like I just have a feeling that the Blazers are likely going to look for a wing that could come in and play like a bit off of the catch, and then make like a few like tertiary plays every now and then next to Dame and CJ, who I likely see playing together for at least another year. So yeah, that's where I have Saddiq going. And then 17th pick, Minnesota has this pick here.
Minnesota again, they're back.
Yeah. And I think that they might take a flyer here on Aleksej Pokusevski.
Well, he's had a lot of different ranges in the draft as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now he's kind of creeping in the first round, but that varies too.
Yeah, I think that he's like, I would be very surprised if he fell out in the first round. I just think there's too much there. 7-footer, long,
young as well.
The youngest player in the draft.
Yeah.
Moves really, really well. Yes, he hasn't played at a very high level, but he just shows so many things where you're like, you could see a lottery possibility here.
Oh yes, the big guy with the guard skill set. Like that's
guard skill set. Like
that's such a
like the defensive instincts. Like he's like a stocks master. He gets steals for a 7-footer. He gets blocks for a 7-footer. He's a good passer in transition. He can put the ball on the floor. His shooting hasn't necessarily like looked amazing, but when you watch him shoot, sometimes you're just like, wow, like the potential there to shoot off of movement and to be a really tough person to defend. The body is a concern.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, every weight room is key.
Absolute concern. he is likely going to take a while to contribute at the NBA level. But I think he could be somebody that people really sleep on, or go a little too high. Who knows? But
No,
I think he's well worth a flyer here. And I have a feeling like if Minnesota doesn't take him, one, I feel like he might go even higher than we have him here. But I think Dallas certainly seems like a possibility. Like
yeah,
Dallas
a lot of teams
seems
want
like they'd be interested in, like, obviously they're, known for their scouting in Europe. And I think like that may be his basement is Dallas.
But you put that guy on the court with Porzingis, and that's like two monstrous human beings that can handle the ball, and like
not to mention this guy Luka Doncic, who can handle
he's not half bad. Yeah. No, I think I think for him it's just like adding that physicality is going to be tough. Like just getting that size that he can grind in the NBA. Because again, it's great that you're a big guy with guard skill, but you're still going to have to eventually kind of guard some people like in the post.
Yeah.
And be able to like kind of take that beating, because eventually you're just going to have to match up. Like that's great that you're 6'10" and guard, but eventually you're going to have to guard someone like who's like a 3 or 4.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, obviously the fours are kind of moving down and that may benefit him, but some of the tougher fours in the NBA could eat him alive.
Yeah, like
we don't know.
Yeah, that's why there's a lot of like you put him like Anthony Davis like on.
Oh yeah, like
it's just like that's not even a context. Defensively.
This is obviously something where they're thinking long term.
For sure, 100%.
As much as Minnesota, kind of wants to keep Karl Anthony Towns around and show him that they're kind of turning everything around. I think that this is worth a gamble.
Oh, for sure. At this point of the draft. And is he going to come over immediately, or is he going to?
I think there's a good chance that he does.
This contract.
I at least like I haven't heard anything about him wanting to stay in Europe for like a prolonged period.
Sweet.
Where we'll probably have a player later who that might apply to. But let's move on to Dallas, the next pick at 18. And I have them taking Desmond Bane out of Texas Christian University. He is the first senior drafted, and he is maybe the best shooter in the draft. He just the number of ways that he could do it, very consistent. He also he has size and he doesn't have amazing size, but he's about 6'4", but he has like a chalk wingspan, but he's so strong. He has an ability to shoot threes off of both the bounce and on the catch. So versatility as a shooter, shoots off movement really well, really good passer too. So you maybe at his high end get him as a secondary playmaker also. I just think very enticing as a player next to a Luka Doncic. I know that the popular mock spot for him also has been to Brooklyn. Is maybe a replacement for Joe Harris. But I have a feeling he is in this kind of mid-first range at this point, and could go possibly even higher. He's kind of become a draft darling, and I think the tape kind of speaks to that as well.
Moving on, we're actually talking. You talked Brooklyn earlier. Brooklyn is picking 19th. Steve Nash coming in, coaching. He's got D'Antoni as an assistant. So I'm guessing it's going to be that very similar style of play in which Steve Nash played in.
Yeah.
And then you actually have Kyrie, Kevin Durant coming in this year to actually play together, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that'll be a really cool style, and I have a feeling if those two guys are healthy, this is going to be a team that is really competing in the Eastern Conference. I have them taking Cole Anthony. I know there are some other needs and possibilities here. You do have Kyrie Irving, obviously. You have like a Spencer Dinwiddie who plays on the ball as well. But Spencer Dinwiddie is soon to be a free agent. I think Cole Anthony's shooting here and then like ability to kind of come in and be like that immediate scorer off of the bench. Like
aggressive scoring ability. I think that's what
absolutely. He's renowned for his pull-up game. His finishing at North Carolina was pretty atrocious. He left a lot of concerns after starting off the year as possibly seen as like a top 5.
Oh yeah,
I had him number 1.
Yeah, like a year ago, he was definitely a different
tremendous talent. Like his EYBL and everything there. Like, and then his play in like the high school all-star circuit. You saw tons of talent there, and then his 2-foot leaping ability is still it's quite good. But yeah, his ability to leap from a standstill and finish around the rim definitely in question.
And I think team play as well, because you look at him in North Carolina too. It's like 4 assists a game, 3.5 turnovers.
Yeah. He's not somebody that you're going to hand the ball to and expect him to run your team.
So which is why he's at this point of the draft now versus where he was projected earlier.
Yeah, so he's somebody that you kind of want being maybe next to like a larger initiator, and I think Brooklyn may have that in like a Spencer Dinwiddie or Karis LeVert at times, and even like you could see him playing next to Kyrie Irving. You certainly like it. Cole showed some solid defensive instincts. But there are certainly concerns there, and his range is definitely very wide. But I just really believe in his shooting. I really believe in his pull-up game, and I believe in him as a scorer. I think if he fell, like this could be a real steal.
Yeah, I think the open offense is going to be like very much playing to his skill set.
Yeah. Like him kind of playing without a clogged lane that he certainly did have at North Carolina. I could see this being a real spot for him. At 19 in Brooklyn. 20, I have the Miami Heat taking Tyrell Terry.
His name's been coming up the board.
Yeah.
Recently. He's like someone who's on the rise.
And then you have like the offense running through Jimmy and Bam Adebayo. And obviously you're getting more people. The thing with Tyrell Terry is that he got stronger. People talked about him growing since Stanford. He's still tiny. He's still so tiny. And then he's not like somebody that's necessarily like running your team. Like you don't necessarily trust him as a ball handler. He's a good passer, not like an incredible passer. But the thing that he really did bring to the table was he has some craft as like a finisher, but the big thing is his shooting. And he was a really, really good shooter. And I think that's something where, he could bring in some offense and ability to stretch the floor and play next to like the big initiator. So that's why I think Miami might have some interest in him. You're right. He is like, there is certainly a chance that he's moving up draft boards, but I'm still a little bit skeptical.
People were kind of like, it was a little shocking that he stayed in the draft because I think a lot of people thought he was going to go back to Stanford.
No, I think for the most part, it was kind of believed that Tyrell Terry was leaning towards entering the draft.
Because he's a little smaller.
Well, especially since he was likely like given a first-round promise as well. So yeah, I think there's a really good chance that he still gets taken in the first round. And yeah, then when you're just like coming in, like he weighs like $170 even. He's not necessarily like the quickest guy, the most explosive guy. He has like a small standing reach too, pretty much like like a +1 wingspan. Not like the physical tools are leave a lot to be desired. But there are some things to really like about his game, and like the shooting was obviously like really, really good as a freshman.
Yeah, I think assuming there is a G League, like he's someone that you could see like getting like playing down there for a minute and then just like tearing it up and then getting called back up to Miami.
Yeah, certainly seems like a possibility. And then not to mention like another guy that like, you know, maybe you like at the end of his rookie contract when Miami is, I think in 2021 looking to add somebody big is a free agent. So yeah, they'll need some of those
contracts,
on rookie contracts, and yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, at 21, I have Philadelphia. This may be a little high for him, but I have Philadelphia just going with a shooter. And like, you know, they just hired Daryl Morey. He's apparently making $10 million a year to be the president of basketball operations for the Philadelphia 76ers. Philly is in desperate need of shooting. They need somebody to stretch the floor. You're wondering if they're going to break up Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. That may be down the line. I think they're still going to see how it works. Is there any ability to trade like Al Horford or Tobias Harris?
That's a
looking like no. I wouldn't think so.
On that contract for Horford, it's like
for both of them.
Yeah,
I just think, you know, they overpaid and then gave him long-term deals.
And then Jimmy's doing thing in Miami. He's happy now.
Yeah.
Over Jimmy. Jimmy's
yeah. And then, like, you know, it was a thing where they couldn't afford Jimmy.
No, of course.
Yeah, like I think they should have maybe tried a little harder. Who knows? But yeah, like I still think I don't want to write off Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid since I think they're two such unique talents, and that anybody you trade them for is likely going to like. I don't think it necessarily makes them a better team. I'll be straight up. I know that obviously like Embiid playing next to Horford sucks. Tobias Harris playing the three sucks. It's not great for their team either. And like you could see trade, like I've heard trading one of them for like Bradley Beal or like a shooter. I get it. And like, you know, it would be interesting. And you certainly want shooters around either Embiid or Simmons.
Yeah.
Like that Al Horford and Tobias Harris, I don't think are. But yeah, so let's just start off with baby steps. And then let's take a risk on somebody who might really be a good shooting prospect in Isaiah Joe. And that's who I have Philadelphia taking at 21. He is somebody that can shoot off of movement, can shoot off of the catch, has really deep range, still has strength concerns. But the one thing, and he didn't shoot particularly like a high percentage this year, but you really buy his shooting. He shot a high mark at the free throw line. The difficulty of his shots are like legit. And then you just see him like taking the small role and being like the shooting specialist who also has like some solid defensive instincts. And like that's just something where you could really see him excelling here. And he just seems like somebody who Daryl Morey might be like quite interested in. Maybe not this high, but I think there's a possibility. Like, you know, I'm willing to throw it out because they could really just be looking for like that specialist with Isaiah Joe's size, and then believing that Isaiah Joe builds the physicality to be like a solid rotation wing in the NBA.
No, I think that fits what Philly's looking for. But yeah, it's the $1 million question is, yeah, do they break up that Simmons and Embiid? Like,
yeah. Do you have $1 million for me?
I don't, but if I did, I would say I would keep Joel, but
yeah. Because I'll have $1 million answer if you to that $1 million question. It just you gotta show me the money, baby.
I'm going.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. But I think they're gonna roll with it and just see how it goes. And I didn't love that they fired Brett Brown, but you could kind of see it coming. And then we'll see if Doc Rivers can do anything with that team. The way that it's built right now.
Well, because he made
obviously the biggest thing is they're going to add some shooting. Like that's 100%. I feel something that they're going to look at with this draft pick.
Well, he helped make the Clippers, a presentable team. So maybe he can kind of, keep Philadelphia.
The players help with that also.
He did a good part of that. Getting Chris Paul definitely.
Getting Kawhi Leonard and Paul George didn't hurt either.
It didn't help him either because they kind of helped get him fired as well. So
yeah, I think he may have helped himself there too. At 22, I see this guy more as a center, but they may be losing a center, so it's a possibility there too. I know that you're just wondering what's going to happen with the power forward situation. You have Paul Millsap off the books. He may not re-sign there. Jeremy Grant may not resign there. You are going to have to show him some money. You wonder what the market's like for Mason Plumlee. So I see them maybe taking a big, and then a guy who has certainly seen or there have been rumors of him going higher than this. I have them taking Jalen Smith from Maryland. He is somebody that certainly has shooting potential. Showed some nice athleticism as well. I just feel there's kind of a lack of speed there, and also a lack of bulk that make it a little scary proposition for him to be your center. And yeah, you wonder if he's going to be great at guarding fours and doing the job there. Playing next to a Nikola Jokic, you wonder if that's defensively viable. But yeah, I feel like this could be a range for him, and if he doesn't go a little bit higher, but yeah, I have Denver taking Jalen Smith.
Yeah, I think long shot blocking, and again, they're losing all those front court guys, and hopefully, ideally, Jokic is in good shape and healthy, and you don't really need another center. For the most part. And then worst case
scenario. Well, you always need another center.
No, you always need another center, but not to play that many, a ton of minutes. And then worst case scenario for Denver, Bull.
Yeah.
This is sure. You can back up Bull.
I think Bull could play into their plans. You don't know, but yeah, he certainly showed some intriguing things in his non-rookie tenure. Where he plays in the playoffs too. How does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's like a rookie remix. He gets one more chance to kind of
it's like a baseball rookie. Yeah. So I have the Utah Jazz at 23. The last time that we did a mock draft, I drafted Grant Riller. Utah fans thought I was a dick and yelled at me and hurt my feelings. But Utah fans wanted big, and I have a feeling they could absolutely be correct. They sold a 40-year-old, just purchased Utah, and I think he'll listen to the fans. And
he's a true fan. So he was the guy from Qualtrics. I watched an interview with him years ago, but he says he had the jersey sponsor, and he's into Utah. He's hopefully going to be a good, positive person for that fun old community of good old Salt Lake City.
Well, I came into Utah, and I really liked getting out of Utah. Yeah. Utah, beautiful state. But Precious Achiuwa at 23 of the Jazz. He's a guy that I see more as a 4-5. I know some people see him as a 3-4, but relentless athlete. Relentless. That's the big thing. He did his best work this year. So he was nominated for the Julius Erving Award, which made no sense to me because he wasn't a small forward and did all his best work as a center.
Well, he's kind of a tweener.
Yeah, he is. But the other thing is he kind of thinks he's a small forward. But he also shows flashes of ball skills, and he's not a good passer, but a great decision maker. But he shows ability to move his feet, a lot of bounce at his size, and legitimate size for a 4-5. I feel. So yeah, I think there's a chance that he gets minutes there. And yeah, he's another guy who some people have him going as high as the lottery.
Oh, super volatile range. I know you've never been on him as a lottery guy, but yeah, it's like in the aggregate mock, it's like he's usually like in that like 13, 14.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are higher on Precious than I personally am, but yeah, I could see it. Like I could see him proving me wrong, and certainly like he's super athletic. That's one thing I'll give to him. He plays really hard. He is a little older for class. That's one thing that's for sure. And I'm not completely sure about like his basketball IQ. So yeah, those have been my concerns with him. But I know other people think that he may be like the kind of like center of the future. So like they don't even see him as a tweener. If you see him as a 3-4, like I don't really get it. But I just don't think he has
the shooting aren't there. Yeah. It's like
I know the big thing is Rafael Barlow, friend of the program, runs NBA Draft Junkies, talks about him working out with Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who is one of the great shooters of our time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm buying him turning Precious into a shooter. But if he does, then I could be way wrong on this. But yeah, so moving on to 24, we got the Milwaukee Bucks. And I have Milwaukee taking Malachi Flynn. And Malachi Flynn's another guy with a pretty wide draft range, but the analytics and draft Twitter people very high on Malachi Flynn.
Oh, just plus minus win shares last year. Like those are
Box plus minus.
Yeah,
for sure. And then also was just like a really good defender and tremendous out of the pick and roll. Like he was one of the top pick and roll playmakers in college basketball, where they run a lot in the NBA pick and roll. And so Malachi Flynn's a guy that you can see coming in and doing that. Another guy who's not very big. So you wonder if he has the same defensive ability in the NBA and doesn't have some issues with that. But I think he's somebody that you kind of believe in as a shooter and just believe in his basketball acumen. And not to mention that he'll be alongside a super jumbo initiator in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And that might be just like a great thing for the Milwaukee Bucks, who are looking for, a little more firepower off their bench. It's Eric Bledsoe seems to be possibly on the trading block also. But yeah, like Malachi Flynn is a small guard who plays bigger than his size and could be somebody that excels next to like a Giannis Antetokounmpo and the like Chris Middleton and who the Bucks really have as their core.
Then he was doing all right, and he was doing well for himself in the Pac-12, and then like the transfer to San Diego State, he just had a great year.
I was just reading like Kevin Pelton talking about it, and like he was saying that while he looked good at Washington State, like he didn't really see him as an NBA prospect until this year when he got like the heavy doses of pick and roll and was just picking teams apart.
Yeah,
and really excelling in that. And then, also shooting really, really well. Now, this is a guy who it's straight up this year. It's hard to believe the athleticism testing. It's just kind of inconsistently run. You're not really sure what to believe. But the one thing you do believe is that this guy has crazy bounce, and that's Tyler Bey at 25 to Oklahoma City. I've always thought this kind of seems like a possible match here. The Andre Robertson thing, the seeing scouts at his games, like, that kind of thing. But yeah, I have Oklahoma City taking Tyler Bey, and Tyler Bey he's
a jumper.
Yeah. The big thing with him is, as I was saying before, like it's about standing reach when you're talking about these vertical numbers. And the fact that Tyler Bey's standing reach was like 8.5 means I'm more likely to believe, because I think that's probably his actual standing reach. And I'm more likely to believe his numbers, which were very impressive. So 37-inch no-step vert, 43.5-inch max vert. And I believe both of them. Like, so yeah, like he's a really crazy athlete. Now, just in terms of him as a basketball player, there's still some things to kind of work on. He wasn't a very high volume shooter, kind of like, gets his offense through these kind of different variances and not necessarily like a ton in the half court, but yeah, a good transition player, somebody that you can see rebounding and playing well beyond his size, has a 7'1" wingspan, and just being like the ability to play that small ball four, give some defensive versatility where I think there's a chance that he guards wing players also, freak athleticism, and also like, some real playing acumen. And like, he didn't do a ton of shooting off of movement, but he looked good shooting off of movement, and certainly seemed more willing to do so this year. So yeah, he's another guy who I think could spend some time in G League, work on refining a few things in his game.
On the edges, but athletically, yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very high level athlete, and helps him play well beyond his size. And I think if he doesn't go in the first round, he likely will be like one of the first few picks of the second round. But yeah, if there's a guy whose athleticism testing seems legit and like legitimately helped him, it's Tyler Bey. 26, the Boston Celtics. Will they keep all of their picks? That's the big question. They have a lot.
They have a ton. Yeah, they always have a ton.
3 first-round picks. I'm not sure they keep them all, but let's assume that they possibly may. I think they may take another wing, and I have them taking Josh Green at 26. Josh Green is somebody who initially looked like a possible lottery pick. There are a few very legitimate concerns with Josh Green. He really, really struggled finishing around the basket, which is just weird for somebody as athletic as him. He just seems to struggle using his offhand and just finishing in general and gathering. But there are the things you really like about Josh Green. Doesn't need the ball, really good passer, crazy like in terms of lateral ability, and like, so not only does he have like explosive leaping ability that can help him in transition, but he is really, really good as an on-ball defender, strong, and then all the character things with him seem to be very positive as well. And like the 2 years at the Hoop Summit, like the guy was just like one of the most consistent guys there, showed strength, and when he runs in a straight line, like hot damn. Not to mention that he can move side to side too. So yeah, like some high level athleticism there. And yeah, I know that some people have Josh Green moving down quite a bit, and obviously we have him at 26 as opposed to where we initially were thinking he would be like in the mid first round. But yeah, I still think that Josh Green is a likely first round pick, and I still like buy his shooting. Like I'm not incredibly high on it and don't think he's like a knockdown shooting specialist, but I think he's at least, shown some ability as a spot up shooter. And like, yeah, I don't think 3-and-D is out of the question with Josh.
Yeah, he's got the D part. He just needs to work on the 3 part.
I mean, he like wasn't afraid to take them.
Yeah, no, totally. He just
and didn't shoot terrible. Yeah. So yeah, 27, New York Knicks.
Again,
I know this guy he has a very, wide range of picks as well, and I'm sure the Knicks fans will remind me I'm taking another point guard. I don't know if New York's keeping this pick. I'm thinking New York might either trade down or trade out. Who knows? I think there's certainly a chance they'll try and get draft capital for next year's draft. But yeah, at 27, I have them taking Theo Maledon. He played in France the past couple of years in the Pro A or Pro A. And he
hey, please, for our French fans.
Yeah, I just I think there are some questions about him being like your primary ball handler, but there's a lot of shooting potential there, and he's a crafty finisher. I just think people are kind of wary about just how much burst he has, his strength, things along those lines. So I think those are the possibilities of him slipping. He's not tremendous at everything, and I think it's a lot more potential than it is necessarily something that is likely to happen right away. That's where I could see him slipping. But I think the Knicks are looking for guards and for guard help and for guys who stretch the floor, and that could be Theo Maledon at number 27. So, yeah, that's why I have him going to the Knicks along with Tyrese Haliburton.
Hey, but why not? Let's put some competition out there. See who wants to be that point guard for the Knicks.
And at 28, the Los Angeles, your champion, world champion, or NBA champion. I know they always call it world champion, but NBA champion, Los Angeles Lakers. I have them taking Grant Riller. Now, people have talked about the Lakers getting a shooter. They've been talking about the Lakers getting a playmaker or a point guard. I think Riller has potential in both areas. He did measure a little smaller than I thought he would be from the combine measurements I've seen. That's a little concerning to me. But he's very explosive. And the big thing with him is that finishing ability, the ability to create for himself. Like I think he's a guy that, you could see coming off the bench and getting you some buckets and giving you a little bit of that boost. And defensively, some concerns. Like, he didn't necessarily kill it on that end of the floor, and he wasn't playing at the highest level of competition, so that was a little bit concerning. But I think there's certainly a lateral ability there, and I think that I'm guessing the workload that he had may have attributed to that as well. I think that Grant Riller at 28 could be somebody that LA looks at and just kind of believes in as a shooter, as somebody that could maybe come in, because you're figuring LeBron James, as much as he defies Father Time, it's bound to come. Yeah. Their championship window could be like the next couple of years. They're obviously hoping to add at least one more. Let's I think Grant Riller could be a real possibility here.
It can't be Caruso's team.
Yeah.
But he can't do it himself.
Yeah. True enough.
So coming up, we got the longest running NBA champion single season team of all time, the Toronto Raptors, because they got to be champions for like a year and a half.
And that's great.
Which is awesome. Pick it at number 29.
Yeah. Number 29. I know a lot of people are thinking Toronto will take some prospect with a lot of issues and turn them around, and their development is a cure-all for everyone. I have them taking a guy who's just been a really good college basketball player the last few years, has some supreme basketball acumen, some concerns about his size, his athleticism at the next level, but I have them taking Xavier Tillman. Toronto has 3 centers that are all free agents. Xavier Tillman is somebody who is, you're figuring, likely exclusively playing center at the NBA level, but he's also strong as an ox, has these, as we see, like massive hands. His hand width is 11 inches.
Not bad.
And his hand length is 10 1/4 inches. So massive hands. Tremendous passer. Was a really, really smart defender and good rim protector. Has a 7'2" wingspan. He's 6'7.5" without shoes, so not huge. Not tall, but he's so strong and
Tough, yeah, I think tough is more
immovable. And then when you're talking about like he was one of the best, like analytically one of the best players in the NCAA the last 2 years, and was a huge reason that Michigan State was constantly winning basketball games. So yeah, like there are just a few things that he does where, you know, he doesn't necessarily need the ball, but makes good decisions when he does have the ball. Great passer off the short roll, great passer from the, you know, high and low post. And then he, you know, the shooting potential, like that's, you're not sure if that's there necessarily, but there's just so much to like about his game. And then he's a tremendous screener too. So yeah, there are lots of things that Xavier Tillman does that you're just really happy with. And it just seems like he is somebody that you're not necessarily like thinking is going to be your like starting center along the lines, but could be like a really valuable like third big or like first big off the bench and give you some really good minutes at center. So yeah, I think there's a really good chance Xavier Tillman goes in the first round, and I could see Toronto being a good destination for him.
Yeah, and I think they need a center. It's gonna be pretty.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like, because no guarantees they sign any of the centers who they have in free agency. And final pick, Boston picking for the seems like 50th time, but it's only the 4th. Yeah.
Final pick, closing out the first round.
Third.
I thought they had 4 this year.
14, 26, 30.
No, you were correct.
So
that was a test.
I have Boston. I was on it. I have Boston taking the draft and stash guy here. So this is a guy who I think is legitimately a draft and stash guy, but somebody with a lot of potential and somebody that I feel could be like, you know, if you're willing to wait, he could be a valuable rotation piece, and that's Leandro Balmoro. He's from Argentina. He plays for FC Barcelona in Spain. He did get some EuroLeague minutes. He is a great, like, he's somebody who's basically like a 6'6" like initiator. Really good playing on the ball and a great passer. Makes like these tremendous like transition passes, and then the other thing is he like works really hard as a defender too. He, I think, is like maybe like 6'6" with like a 6'8" wingspan, but he like gets right in there. He's not necessarily like the most physically impressive guy, but yeah, you can see the basketball instincts, and then you can see the energy and tenacity. His shooting is a huge question mark, and you're really not sure what he provides offensively. But the one thing that you have some confidence in is his ability to stay on the court as a defender, and then him being like the ball handler and passer that he is, and ability to possibly break down defenses. So yeah, he's somebody that I know has moved up draft boards, and he has a really wide range in the draft as well. But is a guy that I still think there's a possibility he ends up being a first-round pick.
No, totally. I think it's especially for a team like Boston that has that luxury of like you can put him away for a few years, then bring him over. Add that for you, because eventually Boston's gonna lose like Jaylen Brown, or you know they're gonna have something, so it'll be good, you know, to keep their energy level up so they never really miss a step. So I think he's got that like potential.
Yeah.
And then
and then if Boston does indeed like keep these picks, which I think there's a good possibility to trade for
Deni just over. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if they keep these picks, then you could certainly see at least one being a draft and stash guy. Or somebody that they feel could come over a little bit later.
Yeah, because it's hard to have all those guaranteed contracts on here.
So
gonna spread it out.
That was our 1 through 30. We're going to do one more before the draft, and I'm sure there will be changes. But that's just kind of based off of giving you an idea of some of the rumors and some of the possible draft ranges for these players. There were a few players that I left out of the first round that I think certainly have a chance of slipping in there. Jaden McDaniels was somebody that came to mind. I know Robert Woodard is somebody that people are talking about possibly being in the first round. Trey Jones, who had like great combine numbers from P3 and not necessarily the biggest guy, but somebody that I know some NBA people are quite high on.
Point guard.
Yeah, and was a good point of attack defender and decision maker, and certainly has like some great balance. There was a rumor from Jonathan Wasserman that Peyton Pritchard has a first round promise. I can't figure out where.
We hope that to be true. Because
I hope, yeah, come on. I don't hope that. I hope he goes to a place that appreciates it.
Well, that too, but I hope he goes there with a guaranteed contract from the first round.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Well, you're just looking at the money, and
that's what I'm about. Not gonna lie.
Fine, Jason Visenberg, you have your right to do so, and I think that would be really good for Peyton Pritchard. Also, when you're talking about it in those terms, and then I know Jamias Ramsey is somebody that gets talked about as a possible first round pick. Still not sure. Don't really know what to think. I know he shot really, really well and often this year, but then wasn't a great free throw shooter. And then you kind of worry about some of the like instinct things on both ends of the floor. And then one guy I wanted to, just kind of focus on a little bit, and who I think I alluded to earlier in the show, Udoka Azubuike. And this is a guy like who it's kind of like blowing my mind how much I'm thinking about him as a prospect. The big thing with him is, if this were 10 years ago, he goes like in the lottery. And that very well may be. And he was a really good college basketball player this past year, was a good defender in college basketball, was the best finisher in college basketball, like just really hard to stop around the basket because he is enormous. I very much worry about him defending in space, and then I'm wondering, like, if he's going to be that same level of finisher, if that's kind of what you like just want, and like, is that necessarily giving you a huge advantage considering what he may be giving up on the other side of the floor? It was reported that Udoka Azubuike had a 37-inch vertical leap, no step. It was reported that Udoka Azubuike had a 41-inch vertical leap on his max vert. I got a little bit of information there, and luckily, and first off, I know from Hoop Summit, his standing reach is in like the 9'4", 9'5" range. He measured at the 2018 NBA Draft Combine with a 9'4.5" standing reach. His standing reach this time around was 9'1". That's a difference, folks. And what people do when they're measuring your vertical leap is they go at that maximum vertical number, and they basically they get the vertical by subtracting that maximum vertical number from your standing reach. And if you botch your standing reach, then it looks like your vertical is higher. So I think that you shave 3.5 inches off of Udoka Azubuike's vertical. Still very impressive. 33.5 inches. I think his no-step vert in 2018 was 31. So improved 2.5 there. Improved 6 inches on his max vert, so 37.5. And so, yeah, I think he like barely had a difference from his no-step to max vert. That he's always been able to finish around the basket. I'm just kind of wondering, but I think it's looking more and more like there's a chance that he gets drafted like pretty high in the second round, and maybe even makes it to the first round. I've never been a big believer in his age, but I just wanted to talk about him because he, not only that, but like, as I mentioned, I used to do a Jason Maxiel award, which I guess could turn into a Mohamed Bamba award, where it was the length of your wingspan to your height, and his wingspan height differential seems to be 9.25 inches, which is insane. And so obviously crazy body. He measured in at like 260 also, so he was quite a bit down weight-wise. And yeah, like crazy finishing numbers. He's going to be an interesting case.
Yeah, and we still got some time between now and the draft, so hopefully more buzz, more rumors, but we will present another mock draft before we actually head in to the draft November 18th.
Yeah. Yeah, and Cassius Stanley, obviously, like crazy vertical numbers as well, just not like the highest end you reach. So clearing the vertex happens when you hit 12 feet. And Cassius, even with his really impressive vertical numbers, and like this is really good for his position, but he didn't clear the vertex, whereas guys like Udoka and Tyler Bay both did. And then, yeah, just kind of looking here if I have any other ones that are too crazy. And no, I think we'll save them for later. But yeah, just gave a little bit of information there on a few prospects and the measurements that we've heard so far. And yeah, just giving you kind of an idea of draft scenarios and
What could be happening?
Player ranges, what could happen, who's looking to trade, just a few guys that you'll definitely hear about between now and draft day, and then of course on draft day, November 18th. We're crossing our fingers.
Yeah.
End this.
Let's do it. Let's finally do this draft, and then we can focus on 2021 officially. But thank you guys so much, as always, for checking out, tuning in. Catch us on Wednesdays. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Jade Visenberg. If you want to follow him on Twitter, he's at NBA Draft Mikey V. Want to follow both of us at the same time? See a lot of the same things? We're at Viseland. You can also email us viselandpod@gmail.com. Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, opinions. Lay them on us. We love to hear from you guys.
Leave comments. Leave reviews. Subscribe. Yes, we appreciate everybody who has so far. Just wanted to thank everybody for coming by and checking this out. And yeah, we will see you next week.
See you next Wednesday. Have a good week, everyone.